in addition to the adaptations that we just talked about, there was a wonderful 2016 radio adaptation, which was co-written by Lin and Shaun. And I believe that is where the journey to this stage adaptation that we see in front of us today, which is, as you know, 2 parts and a world premiere that is occurring here at the Park Theatre. It started with that, I believe, in your collaboration. So tell us a little bit about working together in 2016, what the experience was like, and why, from making it a radio play, did you decide you wanted to bring it to the stage?
Fantastic. It's my fault, isn't it? I couldn't flog anything to the BBC, and I'd done a lot of BBC radio, and everything I proposed they turned down, and then felt a bit guilty and came back and said, well, how would you feel about doing the Forsyte Saga? I went, amazing, yes, wonderful. So, but you can't do it all by yourself because it's much too big. You need to do it with somebody. And then we hadn't met. We hadn't. We were put together to do this adaptation, which we did over 4 seasons, I think. It was very weirdly structured. It was like each pair of books had a 90-minute, 5 15s, and a 60-minute to finish them off. And then, just before COVID, 2019, we did it. It went incredibly well. Joe Millson played Soames again then. 2019, I was literally sitting at my computer, looking at all my folders and stuff, and thought, there must be some way of actually exploiting my back catalogue a bit. What could we do? How could I make some money out of one of these things I've done? Not mostly money. But
that was a bad gag.
That was a bad choice. And I started rereading some of the Forsyte episodes, and then I phoned Lin and said that there'd been a little slew of 2-play events. There was Angels in America, The Inheritance, the Harry Potter, and for the first time it seemed possible that we might have enough time to do the entire thing, because there was no attraction to just doing half of it. One had to see how the patterns repeated and the whole thing came full circle. So then I phoned Lin.
Yes, I mean, obviously, at that stage, it seemed like the most outrageous idea because it involved everything you're not meant to do. At least 9 actors, 2 plays, a period piece.
So it was 12 actors in the first.
Yes, it was 12 actors, yes. But I think, you know, just stepping back a little bit, the thing that I feel is core to the whole thing is that when I think this is true for both of us, when we both read Galsworthy, we fell in love with it. And there was this sort of feeling around at the time that he wasn't quite as great as the Bloomsbury lot and Virginia Woolf and that his contemporaries, but actually the writing I thought was out of this world, and that really informed us falling in love with the radio adaptation. But this version needed to be, I mean, the radio adaptation was 15 hours, so this needed to be completely reimagined in a completely new way, and I think we both knew that the challenge was to find a totally new story to tell based on what we had, rather than trying to in some way rejig radio. So it's been a long journey of thinking again, and trying to find the right structure for it, and the women at the heart of the storytelling, with each woman holding the center of each play.
And then it came about rather magically. My agent sent it to Ashley at Troupe, who got very excited. We'd sent the plays off to a friend of mine who's also a dramaturg, who'd sent them out to one of his readers. That one of his readers happened to be Josh. Josh said, these are great, I really want to do them. And before you knew it, the whole thing was happening.
And this never happens.
It never happens.
You never find the right person at the right moment and the right producer who makes it happen. It's so difficult.
People just emerged out of the ether, almost. It was very strange.
Okay, so we've obviously been joined now by the cast. Thank you all for joining us. I'm Terri, and I'm nice to see you again, Jen. So clap at the end, but I'm going to do my name game here and see if I get everyone's name right. So, yes, Fiona, Emma, Lauren, Michael, Andy, Joe, Flora, Jamie, Nigel. And now we can all go. Right. So we were just talking about this wonderful adaptation. Now, Lynn mentioned that the radio version that she and Shaun wrote was 15 hours. When I look on Amazon, the collection of the books is about 750, 800 pages. The first 1960s TV series, many of you saw, 26 parts, 2002, 10 episodes. So this is a feast of a theatrical box set, as we might like to call it, but really at under 5 hours, it really is less is more, isn't it? So, and I think that that comes across so beautifully in the direction and the performances. It's so fluid. We've talked a little about the writing. Let's hear from the director and then the performers, and then we will get to the gentleman's question in the back. But how did you, Josh, you first read it, I think, in 2019 and fell in love with it too.
Yeah.
Did you, how did you envisage it that it could be done in such a short amount of time? This epic story.
A lot of the way you could see a stage production was from the roots in radio, because what Shaun and Lin have done so well in the radio is that there's a couple of sort of dramaturgical games that the staging is all structured on. So if you think about the way that the perspective is used in radio, and that you're always in someone's mind and following them. So a lot of the time when we shift scene to scene, for example, Soames will come in with Michael over here. He will ask Michael, he says to Michael, John Forsyte's back in London, and then you stay with Michael's perspective into the next scene. So what you're really doing is staging particular character's journey through different conversations, rather than trying to stage sort of location, because we decided that, that's pretty bloody obvious, but if you try and stage every scene within the saga, it's just impossible, because there's 104 scenes over the 2 plays, and so if you start bringing on set, it just dies, you know, because it's like a little bit of friction in 103 joints, and the whole thing just falls apart. So it was really actually going from the radio perspective, we're trying to theatricalize what that radio thing is. So that means you can host scenes inside scenes. That means you can do, you know, what does an affair scene, like try and stage the feeling of an affair, which is that your partner is there, but you really suspect she might be thinking about another couple the whole time, and you can just do that rather than having to kind of construct it really. So it was taking the radio through.
And I think I'm right in saying, Joe, were you the only member of the company that was also part of the radio version? So you played Soames in that 15-hour version.
Yeah.
How has your relationship with Soames changed from doing it on radio to doing it on stage?
That's where it cost you. Learn the lines.
Learn the lines.
Learn the lines. What's the question?
Yeah, I mean, do you think it's a different story, the radio version versus the stage story? And have you changed your view on Soames as a character?
Just sort of. No, just dug deeper. I've done about 50 or 60 radio plays, and I don't tend to listen to them. If by chance they're on, I'll listen, but I'm not a massive I should do more quality control. I don't. But someone gave me the box set on CD of the Forsyte Saga. 16 hours. But I had to drive up and down to Edinburgh last year at the time, and actually, that'll pass the time. I mean, I loved recording it. Like, I can't tell you it was it, but then I listened to the whole thing straight through twice. Before I knew this, I'd never loved the radio as a punter. I'd never loved anything much, and it just started. And it was really weird, isn't it? That I went, well, now I've done it, but now I've fallen in love with it when I listened to it. So when this started emerging, I was going to break down doors to get to playing career. You know, yeah.
And in part 1, there's a great line, I think it's Jamie's line, that you say you can't decide whether Soames is a comic or a tragic character. Which do you think?
Luckily, not my business.
All right.
I just eat each part of the cake as it comes along, and it's the audience who can choose such things.
Wonderful. So Of course, Soames and Flora and Fiona, each of you play characters that you play throughout, although you also obviously have to narrate. The rest of you, wow, you've got a lot. Who's got the most number of characters?
It's got to be Michael.
How many do you play, Michael?
6. It could be more if you include party guests and things like that. 6 speaking.
So, of those who have the multi-rolling, do you have a favourite of the characters you play?
Well, it's funny. I like playing older June, but I love Colin. Because I think she's a lovely person.
Florence, who's your favourite?
I don't think I have a favourite. I think they're all brilliant women in their own ways. And they all have different. June is sort of big and fun to play, and Ned is like, she's got that kind of rage that is great, and then it's just quite heartbreaking. So I get this wonderful spectrum. It's very nice. I don't have a favourite.
Yeah, and it's playing people across the time as well. Yeah. Like Emily's Victorian matriarch, and what that means, and then to be able to play 2 different women, 40, 20,
From nearly 40 from the start of the first
yeah.
play.
Do you have a favourite of them?
I think John is the most like me, but I think my favourite is Poltees. Some people might not say, I don't know who saw the first play. Poltees.
Has everyone seen
Poltees the star of Playboy.
Yeah.
Nigel?
Oh, I love him. Yeah, he's the best. He's, out of everyone, out of all the characters, he's kind of got the most self-knowledge and self-awareness. And everyone else is on this journey. And he's already done the journey.
Yeah.
So I just get the payoff and it's lovely. He's so much nicer than me, and I like being that person.
Do you coordinate between you playing the younger Joe and you playing the older one?
Well, I got to rehearse young Joe first, so I got to make decisions.
We used to chat in coffee breaks and stuff about things. But yeah, it was like seeing my origin story. Yeah. But no, it's kind of, I think it's so clear in the writing, even though it's quite spare, it's so clear who everyone is and what they're thinking and what they want to each time. So I'm full credit to Lin and Shaun.
Jamie, do you have a favourite?
The policeman. I always forget about the policeman because now it's on stage being a policeman. Michael's very fun to play and then very much not fun. Because he's suddenly this. It's like playing a golden retriever who's being kicked, which is really sad. Young Joe's, I mean, all of his like turmoil before the play starts. His first scene, kind of this thing that he wanted to happen suddenly happens. He's reunited with his family, and all the pieces just fall together slowly across the play, and has a sort of happy ending with Irene. So that's kind of a lot happier than Michael's ending, when it's like, oh God, what's going to happen to them?
Now, Fleur and Fiona, I am going to come back to you because obviously the plays are named after your characters, but I do want to not waste any more time before I open the floor to questions. The gentleman in the back who had your hand.
Yes, thank you for this production. These 2 productions, I think of it, and they're just really marvelous. Some of the best things I've seen this month in London. And I wanted to ask the author, as you watched it rehearse, which were feelings and what came up for you as you watched the stage production coming together and delivering?
Well, you go first.
Okay. I mean, it's incredibly emotional when you work on a project for more than 5 years, never knowing whether it will find a home or whether anyone will understand it and come in and look after it. So the early stages when we met Josh, and we were working with Josh, a couple of years ago through COVID, we were doing readings on Zoom. It's finding the thing, I think, for writers, I don't know what you think, Shaun, but you're making work out of thin air with no idea whether it will ever happen. And the 1 or 2 pivotal people who grab it and love it like you did makes all the difference, even in terms of being able to go on writing. No matter how many years you've been doing it, it's finding people who understand it, and then actors who love it and care about it that keeps you going long. So I feel very, very emotional about it. every time. Even when looking at the prophet makes me feel emotional. What do you think?
I know, I agree with that. The greatest joy, I think, for a playwright is to sit in a room and watch wonderful actors do the text and to sit there and go, I didn't realize I'd written that. Because everybody has found so much detail, so much inner life, there are so many just wonderful little subtle intonations and things that weren't in my head at all when we were writing it, and people have watching these nine superb actors do this exquisite work I am so grateful. I am so grateful for the opportunity, because Galsworthy, he travels a lot, and then suddenly he'll come out with, or we put it in, he'll come out with something golden that just hits to the heart, like you're not freed from the responsibilities of being a decent man at the end. That just goes, straight to the heart. With a line we cut, actually, which was, I know I shouldn't play with fire, but the flames are so beautiful. We had to cut because it got in the way. Kill your babies, that's what they say. But this is very special. This has been built with love, I think, from everybody.
And it was wonderful seeing you in the audience responding to the work, because you're so enjoying the performances and, like, as you say, reacting to different. For you guys on stage, were you aware of that? Do you know during the room? Yeah.
You can hear Sean's laugh.
Yeah. You can. Wonderful. Great question. So the other hand, also in the back.
I think we were still definitely being better. And we got feelings about how I don't do this for people who have actually read it. And I have to. I don't know. I think that's ridiculous to do that.
Who were the people in the audience who raised their hands when they read it? So, are you disappointed? No disappointment. Yeah.
There are nine novels. The last three aren't very good, and they're about different people. And Soames is dead at the end of it. And Fleur vaguely flits through the final three books. So that was easy. We knew we could cut those. Then there was no room for Winifred and her amazing husband and Val and the Boer War and one of them dying in a tent, and we just, which one? Jolly, yes.
That was the only thread in the book that I was really sad that like there was no room for it. It was never going to be in there, but that was the only bit where you're like, I moved you so much in the book. That was the reason to go read the book.
And then I think because we decided to call them Irene and Fleur, so that kind of gave us a reason to carve the meat the way that we did.
And I think with any adaptation, it's terrifying, and that never goes away. So you have to sort of begin from your emotional response. Well, what I do is, how do I emotionally respond to the books, even when there are 6 books? And it felt like there were 2 generations of women at the heart of this complex kind of map in both chunks of the story. And once we'd sort of made that decision, it became easier to work out what we could keep and what we could let go of. So I think whenever you're doing anything like this, you have to kind of go, where's the beating heart of it? Because obviously that doesn't rule out Soames. I mean, Soames is at the heart of the whole 2 plays. But there's a cluster of people in a complex kind of struggle. And it's kind of almost like Galsworthy gave us a kitchen full of ingredients, and ultimately we had to say we're going to make these 2 cakes, and we can't put everything in. So where are we most emotionally moved? And I think we came from that emotion.
There's a great novel in which Fleur has an affair with a poet, a proper poet, not a poet like John. There's a great book where she has a court battle with a society hostess who feels insulted. So they're really still worth reading.
Yes.
You can fit them
You
into
could expand it to a trilogy. And,
we could expand to 15 hours.
There we go. Now let me actually bring in then Flora and Fiona at this point. So the stories, to actually Fleur and Irene, you're not that much on stage together, it seemed to me. I'm trying to think of exact amounts of time, but the
also in Irene, I guess I know quite a lot. Yeah.
But
as a narrator.
As a scene.
As a narrator,
As
but in terms of the characters. Yeah. But so much of the stories obviously find those echoes and resonances. How much did you two work together in terms of thinking about those echoes? Is that something that was important to you when you were developing your own characters?
Well, I suppose one of the things is because as Fleur the narrator, I was in most of the rehearsals for Irene, so I was present. So I thought we didn't have sort of direct conversation.
No, but I think there was a kind of general conversation about how, like, women changed in that period, like the role of women in that period. You know what I mean? So, yeah, kind of Victorian Irene, but very much stuck in her place in society, and then how that then gets back and gets passed into a modern, gradually modern beginning of the century. There was kind of chat about that, but not really like, yeah, it was quite, yeah.
And what does the narration bring to you when you're tackling the characters? Yeah. It's so important, the narration.
We call it flourish.
Narration.
Yeah. Floration because it's Fleur narration.
Who came up with that? Yeah, it had its challenges. I mean, I got a bit stuck with it at points, just being like, but hang on, what do I know? What does Fleur know at this point? And is this... And Josh was very patient and calm with me and helped try to work out the concurrent thread. And because we started with Irene, so sort of my part is Fleur at the end of the story we've seen tonight, is then me going back to try and understand why I am where I am. But we rehearsed Irene first. So, yeah, I don't know, it was a bit sort of... and it was quite, it didn't last so long for both plays. Quite a kind of truncated, but short rehearsal period. So it had its challenges. And it was interesting going back to it. We did 2 weeks on Irene, and then 2 weeks on Fleur, and then back to Irene. And then... And back to Fleur.
Six weeks
it's very
fun.
fun.
So good.
Wow, amazing. Okay, I think we've got time for maybe one or two more questions. Other hands in the front row, and then we can
I haven't looked at it. I have seen those parts. Did the ending change, and if so, why? I know you have got a bit sad.
The ending? No.
Well,
did it? Yeah.
There isn't a neon light in the book.
yes, the last line, when we rehearsed the last line.
Not the event, the major event.
Not the
events
no.
in any way at all.
No.
There's a slight adjustment between Michael and Fleur and who says what in the final scene.
Because we didn't want it to be too bleak, because I don't think you know anything about life until you lose somebody, honestly. And Fleur's had the worst day of her life, but she's lost her father and the man she loves, the rest of it. So we wanted to create something that had a kernel of positivity and moving forwards in it in that very last moment, rather than it being absolutely bleak and empty.
And also, I think there is a theme involved where and it's said in the plays as well, that until you've lost something, this line is, June has never lost anything. Vasily says, June has never lost anything, therefore she doesn't understand the world, essentially. So what we just slightly did was when Fleur says, was it even love, right at the very end, I could have lost my son. That last line, shall we go in, was originally Michael's. And we moved it, I don't think we moved it, but we moved it to Fleur so that she's guiding them into the next step of their lives. Because I think she has learned something important, and she has grown, but it's been really hard.
And I think it takes Michael to say it's beautiful about the swan, because we've got that whole thing, that lost memory from love and death. Because Michael will always see the positive. It may be something tragic, but he sees the beauty in it. Yeah.
But the events.
What, were you going to say that?
No.
Okay. Virginia? Yes, big up the rest of the creative team.
Yeah, oh God, yeah, absolutely. So this design is by the amazing Anna Yates, and sound design by Max Pappenheim, which is absolutely beautiful, I think, and wonderful light design by Alex Musgrave. You are all just extraordinary. Yeah, so the way we decided it was, it's interesting because it's partly creative and it's partly budgetary. Obviously, you can't bring anything on because you're just going to have to bring it off again. So then immediately you're in a place where what you're trying to do is design an aesthetic gesture that you're then performing within. So if the design is therefore doing gesture and not place, then you need to make sure that something else is doing place. Now that could be actors, sound, light, movement, whatever it is. And so you can kind of start dividing up the dramaturgical jobs. And so what we decided is that if the design is doing the two eras, so you have Victorian upholstery and then industrial blown apart girders. So that's the taking down of the things. Those are the two. They're doing two eras. Then sound is doing location, but also sequencing. So sort of trying, if you think of it as like the glue that is sticking together 3 or 4 scenes, where we didn't want them to feel like 4 scenes, we wanted them to feel like one sequence. So we use that in the drums in play 1 or within the strings in play 2. And then lighting is often doing location, and then sometimes it shifts from doing location just to do focus. So it's not, sometimes we'll go, this is where we are, and sometimes we'll go, we don't want you to know where we are, we just want you to know there's 3 people on stage, and they're both in love with the woman, or whatever it might be. So you sort of shift our dramaturgical jobs like that, and then you iterate and iterate and iterate and iterate, and you go page by page through the play. And then you realise you can't afford it, and you cut half of it, and then so on. But honestly, it was in large part a creative response to not being able to afford a bigger, like the national version of this. And as always, the old phrase "less is more." It's stronger for the fact that we couldn't afford the Olivier staging.
And just for the cast though, give it how did you must have some anecdotes of being confused who you are or where you are. So you cropped your other good. Oh yeah, somebody's got one. You've got the best one, I can tell.
There was a preview when early on in play 1, I played the 2 brothers, Old Jolie and Swithin. Swithin has a rather sort of different waistcoat and frock coat. We all carried little bits of paper telling us where to go next. And mine went in the wash last night. And I put my trousers on before the show tonight and reached into my pocket, and this wet pulp came out. Seriously. Which we then draped over something in the dressing room and tried to photograph. But in one of the previews, I arrived at one of the entrances behind one of these doors. And Andy was there and said, "You're not normally there." And I went, "No, I'm early because I want to be ready for the dance." And he said, "But don't you have a scene as Jolie first?" And as he said it, I heard the first line of the scene, in which I should be dressed as Jolie and appearing over there instead of over there. And it got worse, didn't it? Because by the time I got round to get to the right place, trying to strip off my clothes, the stage manager would go, "Get on, just get on." So I went on wearing the wrong costume to find that poor old Jamie, who'd been improvising desperately because I wasn't there,
Who then left?
had given up and gone on stage.
I came on to go, okay, we'll just skip that scene, hoping that Joe would arrive. And then he came
But
on
I
with
walked on.
Joe, and I was like, okay.
It's that moment where you're on an empty stage where the only other actor is a ghost from the future. So I just shouted at the imaginary Holly,
I
a
watched
lot
It's
and
bad.
shouted, "Holly, leave your brother
Amazing.
alone," which is a line I have later. So it became, whoever saw those two shows in sequence had a very
Holly
good idea
built
about
it.
Holly's part.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the good news is when something like that happens, it never happens again.
Don't say that.
I
It
think
won't. I can swear it won't.
you've lost your crib sheet.
You don't know Anna. We're going to be created tomorrow morning.
I think you owe them all a drink. Okay, I am getting vibes that I need to finish. Okay, I do just want to say though, I cannot tell you what a feat this is to do a two-part production of this size. I think it is the first for the All Question, isn't it? Ashley from Troupe Theatre, Ashley Cook, the producer. Well done, and well done all of you. So, I will just say, audience, thank you for toughing it out with us. You've been brilliant. You are now champions for the Forsyte Saga. It is playing here, Ashley, until
7th of December.
the 2nd of December. 7th of December. 7th of December.
And then
Not,
is it transferring?
will it transfer? Actually, I think it.
What's the space?
We only pressed 2 days ago, but hopefully.
I mean,
Whisper, just whisper.
Yeah. You know, only West End producers.
So after we give everyone a big clap, if you are on social media, please get your phones out, take photos, share them. Will you please spread the word, tell everyone to come. Everyone's nodding and saying yes, great. So join me in
Thank you so much
thanking
for coming.
the company of the Forsyte Saga.